I realized my dad was willing to ruin my life on purpose the moment he looked me dead in the eyes across the bank desk and said, calmly, "We're not asking. We're telling you. Sign it, and we'll all move on." The banker kept smiling like we were discussing cable packages. My mom kept rubbing her hands together like she was cold. My brother stared at the pen like it was a weapon, and I sat there thinking, this is how it happens. This is how families steal from you while calling it love. I'm Leah, 33F. My husband Mark, 34M, and I live in a small townhouse outside Cleveland with our daughter Nora, 2, who is obsessed with blueberries and will hand you one like she's offering peace. My family's the kind that tells everyone we're close, the kind that has a group chat called The Fam, and still does Sunday dinners like it's a religious obligation. When I was growing up, Sundays meant my dad's grilled chicken, always a little too dry, and my mom's mashed potatoes that somehow tasted like comfort, even when she was mad. My dad, Rick, 62M, is a hands-on guy. Not in the emotionally available way, more in the I'll fix your sink and never talk about feelings way. He owned a small plumbing business for years, built it from nothing, and it shows in the way he walks through life like he's carrying a tool belt even when he's not. My mom, Denise, 59F, is a caretaker with a sharp edge. She'll insist you eat more, then criticize your weight. She'll drop off soup when you're sick, then remind you she did it when you disappoint her later. Love with strings. Always strings. I have one brother, Evan, 36M. He's the firstborn, the golden child, the one who just needs a little help right now. Evan is charming in a way that makes strangers forgive him instantly. He's also the kind of person who calls himself entrepreneurial when he means, I keep blowing up my life and expecting people to rebuild it. And then there's me, the reliable one, the one who got good grades, didn't cause trouble, and learned early that being easy was the best way to keep the house calm. We had real warmth too, and that's what makes this so hard to explain without sounding like I'm rewriting my childhood to justify cutting people off. My dad used to bring me donuts on Saturdays, always the same powdered ones, and leave the white bag on my desk like a little surprise. My mom would hum while she folded laundry, and when she thought nobody was listening, she'd sing along softly to 90s songs on the radio. On Christmas Eve, we'd all sit in the living room in matching pajamas. Yes, we were those people. And Dad would fall asleep halfway through the same movie every year with his mouth slightly open. I believed we were normal. Loud sometimes, messy sometimes, but normal. Then we bought our townhouse and had Nora, and I thought we were entering the adult version of normal. Family dinners with a toddler running around, everyone teasing Dad for oversalting the chicken, Mom forcing leftovers on us like it was a contest. And for a while, that's what it was. Until money showed up like a crack in the wall you can't ignore. It started with a phone call on a Tuesday afternoon while I was at work. My dad never calls me during business hours unless it's urgent. He's a texter now mostly, in that slow two-finger way where every message looks like it took effort. So when his name popped up, my stomach tightened. "Hey," I answered, already bracing. Dad's voice was bright, too bright. "Kiddo, you got a minute?" I stepped into the break room. "Yeah, what's up?" He cleared his throat. "We need you to come by Thursday. Bank appointment. Just to sign something." "Sign what?" I asked. "It's nothing," he said quickly. "Just a form. It'll help us get through a rough patch." I felt that familiar childhood feeling, like I was about to be assigned a role. "Dad, what form?" He sighed like I was being difficult. "Leah, don't do this." "Don't do what?" My voice sharpened. "Ask a question?" He lowered his voice. "Your mom's stressing. We're behind on some things. We need a line of credit. You have good credit. You sign as co-borrower. We're good." I actually laughed. One sharp sound, because my brain couldn't accept it. "You want me to take a loan with you?" "It's not like that," he said immediately. "It's just paperwork. It's a HELOC against the house. We'll pay it." My hands went cold. Why do you need it? He hesitated, just a fraction too long. Then he said the sentence that made my stomach drop. Evan needs help and we can't do it without you. There it was. The real reason. Always Evan. I swallowed hard. I'm not signing anything without seeing it. Dad's tone hardened. It's Thursday at noon. Be there. He hung up. I stood in the break room staring at the vending machine like it had answers. When I got home, Mark was feeding Nora little pieces of banana in her high chair. He looked up and said, "You look pale," I told him. The moment I said, "HELOC," his face changed. "Absolutely not," I exhaled shakily. "I know, but it's my parents." Mark wiped Nora's hands with a wet wipe, careful and slow. "Leah, your parents are asking you to risk our family's stability for your brother." When he said it out loud, it sounded so obvious I wanted to cry. But part of me still wanted to believe it was temporary, that it was just a rough patch, that my dad wouldn't ask if it wasn't necessary. Thursday came anyway, and I went because that's another thing about my family. If you don't show up, they punish you for it. Silence. Gossip. After everything we do. So I walked into the bank with Mark beside me, I insisted, and my mom and dad were already there, sitting too close together like they were presenting a united front. Evan was there too, leaning back in the chair like it was his meeting. Evan smiled like we were grabbing lunch. "Hey, sis." My mom reached for my hand immediately. "Thank you for coming, honey." Dad slid a folder across the table toward me, and right on top, in bold, was the amount, $120,000. My chest tightened. Dad's smile looked strained. "Just sign. We'll handle it." The banker, Linda, her name tag said, smiled warmly. "This is a home equity line of credit. It's very common." I flipped through the pages with shaking hands. I'm not a lawyer, but I can read. I saw my name as co-borrower. I saw the clause that made me fully responsible if payments weren't made. I looked up. "Why is Evan here?" Evan's smile faded a bit. "Because it affects me." That sentence didn't even pretend to be about Dad's recovery or Mom's stress. It was just entitlement. Dad sighed. "Leah, stop making this a thing." I felt my pulse in my throat. "I'm not making it a thing. You're asking me to take on debt." Mom squeezed my hand too hard. "We're family." And then Dad said, across that bank desk, in the calmest voice I'd ever heard from him, "We're not asking. We're telling you. Sign it, and we'll all move on." That was the moment it began. Not the financial conflict, the emotional one. Because he wasn't asking for help, he was demanding compliance. I didn't sign. I slid the folder back across the table and said, "No." The banker's smile wobbled. My mom's face tightened. Evan's jaw clenched. Dad stared at me like I'd slapped him. "What do you mean, no?" "I mean no," I said, voice shaking. "I have a child. I have a mortgage. I'm not putting our finances at risk." Evan scoffed. "So you're just going to let Mom and Dad drown?" I turned to him. "You're the one pushing them into this." He leaned forward, eyes hard. "You don't know what you're talking about." Dad cut in, voice low and angry. "Leah, you're embarrassing us." Embarrassing. Not hurting them, not refusing. Embarrassing. I felt something snap. Not into screaming, but into clarity. "I'm leaving," I said. Mom's voice rose. "Leah!" I stood up, Mark beside me, and we walked out of the bank with my mom calling after me. "You'll regret this." On the drive home, my phone buzzed. The family group chat lit up like a firework. "Mom, I cannot believe you did that to your father in public." "Evan, congrats. You just made everything worse." "Dad, call me. Now." Mark glanced at my screen at a stoplight. "Don't answer." I didn't, but my body reacted anyway. Tight chest, nausea, that old instinct to fix it. That night, Mom called. I let it go to voicemail. Her voicemail was half sobbing, half rage, I don't know who you've become, Leah. I listened to it twice, like pain is something you can measure. Over the next week, it escalated in that slow, poisonous way family conflict does. Passive aggressive at first. Mom texted photos of Dad sitting in his recliner, looking tired with captions like, "He's so stressed." Evan posted in the group chat, "Paid Dad's truck insurance," unlike some people. My aunt, Mom's sister, somehow got added and sent, "Money changes people." Then the accusation started. Evan texted me directly at 11:02 p.m. "Evan, Mark is controlling you. Everyone sees it." That one hit a nerve because it's the go-to story in my family. If I disagree, someone must be influencing me. I'm not allowed to have my own spine. I replied finally, "Me. No, I'm protecting my kid." Evan, so you're choosing your kid over family?" I stared at that line until my eyes hurt, as if my child wasn't family, as if my responsibility was to my brother's needs first. A few days later, Dad called from a number I didn't recognize. I answered because I thought maybe it was an emergency. His voice was cold. "We're coming over." My stomach dropped. "Dad, don't..." "We're coming," he repeated. "Tonight. 7. And then he hung up. They showed up at 7:13, all three of them, like a coordinated unit. Mom with a casserole dish, because she can't have a confrontation without food as emotional camouflage. Dad with his jaw clenched. Evan with his hands in his pockets like he was there to watch. Nora was in the living room stacking blocks. She looked up and yelled, "Grandma," and my mom's face softened for half a second, real softness, before the mask returned. We sat at our kitchen table. Mom pushed the casserole toward me like she was offering peace. Dad didn't touch it. Dad said, "You're going to sign." I took a breath. "No." Mom's voice went high. "Leah, why are you doing this?" "Because it's irresponsible," I said, "and because it's not my debt." Evan laughed. "It's not my debt either." Mark, who had been quiet, finally spoke. "Evan, you're the reason they're asking." Evan's eyes snapped to him. "Stay out of it." Mark's voice stayed calm. "It's our house, our finances. I'm in it." Dad slammed his palm lightly on the table, enough to make Nora look over, startled. "Don't raise your voice in front of the baby." Mark didn't raise his voice. Dad just needed to redirect. Mom's eyes flashed. "If you won't sign, then at least let Evan stay here for a while." I blinked. "What?" Evan shrugged. "Just until things stabilize." My chest tightened. "No." Mom's face hardened instantly. "Why not? You have a guest room." "That's Nora's room," I said. Evan scoffed. "She's 2. I stared at him. "You're not moving into my child's space because you can't manage your life." Dad's voice went icy. "You always talk like you're better than us." There it was. Not a conversation about risk or responsibility, about ego. I swallowed hard. "This isn't about better. It's about boundaries." Mom leaned forward. "You're acting like we're strangers. We raised you." And then she dropped the line that hit hardest. "Your father never asked you for anything, and the one time he does, you slam the door in his face." I felt my eyes burn, because part of that was true. Dad doesn't ask. Dad demands quietly. Through family duty. I said, voice shaking. "He's not asking. He's ordering. And the thing he's ordering is dangerous." Dad stared at me for a long time, then said, in a low voice that chilled me, "If you don't sign, don't come to Sunday dinner. You're not part of this family when you act like this." Mark's hand tightened around mine under the table, and I realized the help they were asking for came with a threat. Belong or be exiled. We ended the meeting with nothing resolved. They left the casserole anyway. Mom cried on the porch like a performance. Evan didn't look at me. That night, Mark and I ate casserole in silence, while Nora smeared peas on her tray, completely unaware that our family had just fractured. I didn't sleep. My chest felt like someone was sitting on it. Every time I drifted off, I'd wake up with my heart racing, and I kept thinking, maybe I'm overreacting, but why does it feel like I'm drowning? Because I wasn't fighting alone. I was fighting a role. The secondary reveal. A week later, I got an alert from my credit monitoring app while I was at Target buying diapers. New credit inquiry, First Lake Financial. My stomach dropped so hard I had to grip the cart. I stood in the diaper aisle staring at my phone like it was a threat, because I hadn't applied for anything. I called the number listed in the alert right there, next to a display of smiling babies. After a few minutes of polite hold music, a woman answered. "Hi, I'm calling because I received an alert about a credit inquiry," I said, voice tight. "I didn't authorize it." She asked my information, put me on hold, came back. "Yes, we have an application in progress," she said carefully, "for a home equity line of credit." My hands started shaking. "In my name?" "It lists you as a co-borrower," she confirmed. I felt nauseous. I did not consent. I did not sign anything. There was a pause. "We have an electronic signature." My throat tightened. That's not possible. But it was possible because my father keeps everything. Social security numbers, old forms, copies of IDs, in case of emergencies. And when you grow up in a family like mine, in case becomes when I need control. I drove home in a fog. When Mark saw my face, he didn't ask questions first. He just took Nora from my arms and said, "What happened?" I showed him the alert. Mark's jaw clenched. They tried anyway. That night I went into full survival mode, the kind that feels cold and detached, because if you feel it, you'll collapse. I froze my credit. I called the lender back and filed a fraud report. I asked for documentation. I wrote down every name, every date, every timestamp. And I did something I'm not proud of, but I also don't regret. I decided on revenge. Not the dramatic kind, the quiet kind that hits where it hurts. Control. I knew my dad and mom were careful when it came to family appearances. They hate being embarrassed. They hate outsiders knowing their mess. They hate being seen as those people. So I set a trap. I wrote an email to myself from an old family email address my dad still used sometimes for invoices. I made it look like a draft I'd accidentally left open on my laptop when I visited. It said, "Dad, I've been thinking. I might sign if you guarantee I won't be responsible. Let's talk at Sunday dinner." Then I did the part that makes me feel morally gross. I invited them over to talk. I acted soft. I acted tired. I told Mom I was overwhelmed. I told Dad I wanted peace. They came over, satisfied, like predators who smell weakness. I left my laptop open on the counter. I went upstairs to put Nora down. Mark stayed in the living room pretending to scroll, listening. 10 minutes later, I came down and my laptop screen was different. The email was open. The cursor was in the reply box. Dad had replied. Not subtly, not cautiously. He wrote, "Good. Sign. We already started the paperwork. Don't make a scene. This is for Evan." My vision went cold. Mark looked at me and gave the smallest nod. Proof. I took a screenshot with the timestamp and emailed it to myself immediately. Dad didn't notice. He was too busy feeling victorious. That was the moment revenge stopped being petty and became protection, because now I could prove intent. I wish I could say I felt empowered. I didn't. I felt sick. I walked around for days with this tightness in my chest, like grief had turned into a physical object. I'd be brushing Nora's hair, and suddenly my hands would start shaking. I'd be in the shower, and my mind would replay Dad's sentence from the bank. "We're telling you," until I felt like I couldn't breathe. I felt rage, yes, but also shame, because part of me still wanted my family to be good, still wanted to believe this was a misunderstanding. I felt guilty too, which is insane because they tried to put debt in my name without permission, and my brain still whispered, "Maybe you should just help." That's what conditioning does. It makes self-protection feel like cruelty. Mark would ask gently, "How are you holding up?" And I'd say, "Fine," because if I said the truth, I might fall apart. Sometimes I'd catch myself staring at Nora and thinking, if I let them do this, I'm teaching her that family can use you and you're supposed to smile. And that thought made me feel sick enough to act. The breaking point came at Sunday dinner. We hadn't gone for 2 weeks because Dad uninvited us. Then Mom texted a photo of Dad sitting alone at the table with the caption, "Mom, he misses Nora. Are you proud of yourself?" That hit me in the gut because it used my child as leverage. It always comes back to that. Emotional blackmail dressed as family love. So, we went. Not because I wanted to reconcile, because I wanted the confrontation to happen in the open. I wanted witnesses. I wanted my father to know I wasn't afraid of his quiet threats anymore. The house smelled like chicken and lemon cleaner. Dad's shoes were by the door. The same framed family photo sat on the shelf, us smiling like nothing ugly could happen. Evan was already there, lounging on the couch with his phone, acting like he owned the place. Mom greeted Nora like she was oxygen. Dad patted her head awkwardly, eyes on me like he was measuring my obedience. Dinner started normal, painfully normal. Dad told the dry chicken story. Mom complained about the neighbor. Evan talked about a new opportunity like he hadn't been begging for money last week. Then Mom set down her fork and said casually, "So, Leah apologized." I blinked. "What?" Mom smiled tightly. "To your father, in the email." Dad's eyes stayed on his plate. Evan smirked. My chest tightened. "I didn't apologize." Mom's smile didn't move. "Don't play games." And that's when I realized they were going to pretend my trap email was real. They were going to use it to pressure me publicly. Dad finally looked up. "You said you'd sign." I felt my pulse in my throat. Mark's hand squeezed my knee under the table. I took a breath and said, calm and loud enough for everyone to hear, "No, I didn't." Dad's eyes narrowed. "Then why did you email me?" I set my phone on the table and slid it toward him. On the screen was his reply, the one that said, "We already started the paperwork. Don't make a scene. This is for Evan." The room went silent. Evan's smirk vanished. Mom's face drained of color. Dad stared at the screen like it was a snake. I said quietly, "You tried to put debt in my name without my consent. I have proof. I talked to the lender. I filed a fraud report." Mom whispered, "Leah." I cut her off. "Don't." Dad's voice shook with rage. "You trapped me." I nodded. "Yes." And there it was, the morally messy part. Because I did trap him. I did bait him. I did it because I didn't trust him to tell the truth. Dad's hands clenched. "How dare you?" I felt tears burn, but my voice stayed steady. "How dare you? I'm your daughter." Mom started crying instantly, dramatic and loud. "You're tearing this family apart." Evan snapped. "You're insane. You always do this. You always make everything about you." Mark finally spoke, voice calm but sharp. "Evan, this is about money and fraud, not Leah's feelings." Dad pushed his chair back so hard it scraped. "Get out." My chest tightened. Mom sobbed harder. Nora looked up, confused, holding a piece of bread. I stood up slowly, picked up Nora, and looked at my father. "I'm leaving," I said. "And you're not getting access to my family until you can admit what you did." Dad's eyes flashed. "You're choosing your husband over your blood." I stared at him. "I'm choosing my child over your control." We walked out while Mom cried behind us, and Evan muttered something like, "Unbelievable." In the car, Nora fell asleep in her car seat within 5 minutes, because toddlers don't know they're driving away from the life you thought you had. Mark kept one hand on the wheel and one on my leg. "You did the right thing," he said. I stared out the window, shaking. "It doesn't feel like it." "It won't," he said quietly, "because they trained you to feel guilty when you protect yourself." That night I blocked Evan. Then I blocked Mom. I didn't block Dad immediately. I stared at his name for a long time, finger hovering. Then I remembered him in the bank saying, "We're telling you." And I blocked him too. It felt like cutting off a limb. It's been 6 weeks. The lender confirmed the application was stopped. They noted the dispute. I don't know what consequences my parents will face. I didn't press charges beyond what was necessary to protect my credit. Part of me still can't stomach the idea of my dad being investigated, even though he did this. That's the moral mess. I'm angry enough to burn bridges, but I still love the people on the other side of them. My mom has tried to reach me through other numbers, through my aunt, through Facebook messages like, "I don't recognize you. You're punishing us. Your father is heartbroken. Think of Nora." Evan sent one email with the subject line, "Congrats," and one sentence, "Hope that screenshot was worth losing your family." I stared at it and felt something heavy settle in my chest. Because the truth is, I do miss them. I miss the version of them that felt safe. I miss Sunday dinners when the worst problem was Dad's dry chicken and Mom's passive-aggressive comments. But what I don't miss is the fear, the guilt, the feeling that my life was a resource for Evan's chaos. Here's what changed in daily life. The first Sunday we didn't go, I felt weirdly empty at 4 p.m., like my body didn't know what to do without the ritual. Nora played with blocks while I stood in the kitchen, staring at nothing. Mark made spaghetti, turned on music, and said, "We can make our own traditions." It was sweet. It also made me cry so hard I had to sit on the floor, because I realized I wasn't just grieving my parents. I was grieving the fantasy that love meant loyalty no matter what. Now I realize something I hate admitting. My dad didn't ask me to sign because he trusted me. He asked because he assumed I'd comply, and my mom didn't cry because she was sorry. She cried because I broke the script. The gut punch realization hit me last week when I opened my phone and saw the fam group chat still sitting there, silent. I hadn't left it. I'd been avoiding it like it might bite. I opened it and saw a new message from my aunt. "Aunt, please stop being stubborn. Your parents are old. No mention of the loan. No mention of consent. No mention of wrongdoing. Just stop being stubborn." And I realized, quietly with a kind of sadness that felt clean, in my family, the person who refuses to be used is always the one blamed for the mess. So, did I take it too far? I don't know. I only know that my daughter deserves to grow up in a home where family doesn't mean sign here.